Hi, I'm Aaron Patton, Turfgrass Extension Specialist here at Purdue University, and today we're going to take a look at this lawn here and talk a little bit about how to recover our lawns after a stressful summer. Now, this lawn is pretty typical the way many lawns look like after we have a stressful summer. We get a lot of heat, maybe some drought in there, and not all the turf can survive that drought. And the basic reason for that is most of the lawn species we're growing here in Indiana are cool season grasses. They like cooler weather, with adequate moisture and so on. And when we get a really hot summer or really dry summer, we can lose some of that turf. Now this is maybe a severe situation. Some lawns will recover really well in the fall, but sometimes you'll have some loss of turf. And when you have that loss of turf, you need to make some decisions on, well, how am I going to recover this area? How am I going to get my lawn back looking nice the way I want it and so on. So let's take a look at this turf here and talk about it for a second. Now, what we see here is pretty typical of many lawns. We see a lot of different lawn species in here. We see some perennial ryegrass like we have here, and it's a bunch type grass, and it doesn't really spread from one area to another. So when lawns that have a lot of perennial ryegrass in them are damaged from the summer heat and stress, they don't really have the ability to recover from that damage. Now, perennial ryegrass in particular makes for excellent lawns in the spring and the fall, but it doesn't have quite as good of a heat tolerance as, let's say, Kentucky bluegrass or a tall fescue. Not quite as good a heat and drought tolerance as those two species. Now over here we have some Kentucky bluegrass, and we see it's kind of thin too, but one thing that's unique about Kentucky bluegrass is it has the ability to spread and recover when it gets damaged. So we have some Kentucky bluegrass here, and it spreads by some underground stems, and so here we see some Kentucky bluegrass plants coming up in some of these thin areas. So it does have the ability to spread into those areas and recover the lawn that way. Now, depending on how much of your lawn might be damaged from the summer stress, you need to make a decision on, do I need to seed, or can I just fertilize my lawn and encourage it to recover that way? And so the rule of thumb I like to use to help us with that decision is to determine how big are these dead areas or these damaged spots, and that helps us decide what we need to do next. Now, generally what I like to say is if the area is kind of bigger than your handprint, then that tells us that we probably need to seed that area in order to get it to recover. So if we take a look at some of these areas like here, we see I've got a big dead area here that's a little bit bigger than the size of my hand, and so that's telling me that I'm probably going to need to put some seed down in this area in order to get that to recover. If I have some other areas of the property that maybe aren't as heavily damaged, maybe I have some small thin areas like here, then I might be able to just encourage those areas to recover just from using some fertilizer, get that area to spread in naturally on its own and not have to buy some seed to put back in that area. Now, when you go to recover your lawn, you'll find that you go to the store, you want to buy some fertilizer, you want to buy some seed, you'll find there are countless options. And so today what we thought we would do is talk a little bit about some of the options you might have when you go to the store as far as what seed and fertilizer to buy, and talk about what some of the aspects of the products you might be looking for. So let's take a look at some products we have. All right, so here we have some different products. We got a couple different fertilizers, some different seed options, and a herbicide. And let's take a look at these products and talk about, again, what you might be looking for in the store when you go to buy some products. Now this fertilizer has mainly nitrogen in it, and usually the print is pretty small on the fertilizers, but if you look, it's going to have 3 numbers on it. In this case it has a 30, a 0, and a 3, and that first number is the amount of nitrogen in there. So just in order to get your lawn to recover and grow a little bit more after a stressful summer, you're going to mainly be looking for a fertilizer that has a high first number, and that's the nitrogen, and that's the nutrient that helps plant grow the most. Okay, and there are a lot of different options, a lot of different fertilizers that you could purchase that would have that as the primary nutrient. Now, if you have some spots in your lawn that are some dead spots that are bigger in your hand, as we discussed, you're probably going to need to put some seed in those areas to get that turf to recover. And when you go to the store and you're looking for some products, some different seeds, you're going to find lots of options. They can be a little bit confusing as far as which one to choose. And so one of the main things you need to consider when you're purchasing a seed are, what are the species in my lawn? Do I have Kentucky bluegrass or tall fescue, or maybe a mixture of grasses? And 2, what kind of areas do I have in my lawn? Is it mainly sunny areas, mainly shady areas, or maybe a little bit of both in your property? Now when you go to look for seed, usually the seed manufacturers will brand them in such a way to help you as a homeowner figure out what you need to buy. So this one, for example, says it's for shady lawns, okay? And typically with for turf species that do well in shaded areas are going to be some of the fine fescues like chewings fescue or creeping red fescue. Now the way you can tell what turf species are in these seed mixtures is to look at the back of the bag. So if we take a look at the back of the bag, we're going to see there's a label on the back of the bag, and that tells you what turf species are in this particular bag of seed, and it tells you how much of each species are in there, okay? Let's take a look at another option for us. Now, many of you probably have full sun areas in your lawn, and so you're probably going to be looking for some Kentucky bluegrass or maybe some tall fescue. Tall fescue's gained a lot of popularity over the last few years, and the fact that it's a little bit more drought tolerant. That can be real crucial to picking a mix. Now here I have a mixture that says high traffic, and so I read a little bit about it. It has a lot of neat things, but I don't really know what's in it until I take a look at the back of the bag. And when I take a look at the back of the bag in this particular mixture, it has mostly tall fescue and a little bit of Kentucky bluegrass. And this would be a mixture of seed we'd recommend for homeowners. It'll have good traffic tolerance, good heat and drought tolerance, and just give you a nice overall look to your lawn. Good summer performance in a mixture that typically has a lot of tall fescue. Some mixtures will be branded in such that they have application in both sun and shade. So if you have a lawn that's maybe half sun, half shade, this will be a particularly good option for you. If you do have maybe a backyard that's really shady and a front lawn that's really sunny, I wouldn't recommend something like this. I'd rather you buy a product for a shady lawn to go in the backyard and one for a sunny area to go in the front lawn. Now one thing that I would avoid when you go to buy your turf seed is avoid buying products that talk about how quick they establish. So here we have something called a quick lawn, okay? It's meant to rapidly establish the turf, and typically these mixtures, if we take a look again at the back of the seed bag and look at the label there, we're going to find it has a lot of annual ryegrass in it. Now annual ryegrass is not very cold hardy, it's not very heat tolerant or drought tolerant, and it's not going to be a good long-term species for your lawn. It might be something we would use in a newly constructed area to stabilize the soil and so on, but it wouldn't be something we'd want to have long-term in our lawn or would make a nice long-term lawn. So just be real careful when you're buying a seed to make sure you get the right turf species. Now one other thing to say about seeding is when we go to seed, sometimes we want to use a special fertilizer. So here we have a product called a starter fertilizer. Now what's special about a starter fertilizer is it's mainly high in phosphorus, and phosphorus is particularly important when we establish lawns from seed. It helps that newly seeded lawn to develop its root system and grow strong. Now what's different about a starter fertilizer from a normal fertilizer is, again, it's high in phosphorus. So when you take a look at the label and you find the numbers on the bag that describe what nutrients are in there, you're going to be looking, of those three numbers, you're going to be looking for a product that has a high middle number, and that's going to tell you that it's high in phosphorus. Now after a stressful summer when the turf is thinned out, that gives an opportunity for weeds to germinate and get established in lawns. So you'll likely be wanting to apply a herbicide to get rid of some of those weeds like dandelion and clover and so on that might get established in those thin areas in the lawn. Now I caution you a little bit when you go to apply a herbicide to a lawn, especially when you've seeded it recently, because there are some label restrictions that caution you about you might injure the turf seedlings if you apply the herbicide too soon after establishment. Now the way that you can tell whether or not or how soon you can apply this herbicide to seedling is to actually look at the back of the product. What they do is they provide some information on how to use them. Okay, it's actually a little pamphlet that's stuck on the back of the jug here, and if we read through this language in this example, it actually tells us that we need to wait after we've mown the new seedlings 3 times before it would be safe to apply this product. Now each product's going to be a little bit different, so if you buy a herbicide to control some dandelions and other weeds in your lawn and you've just seeded the lawn recently, make sure you read these directions so you know just how soon you can get out and apply this product. Now the good thing for this product, for example, if we had seeded our lawn between August 15th and September 15th, that would be the prime window to seed lawns here in the Midwest, then this product is going to actually do its best job controlling weeds if we applied it in the month of October. So typically, if we seed in between the middle of August and the middle of September, by the time we get to October, our seedlings have matured enough, it's safe to apply a herbicide, and that's the best time to control perennial broadleaf weeds like this particular product controls. Now, when you go to seed your lawn and try to get some of these thin, bare areas to fill in, one of the things you're going to need to do first is to prep the site. Now, after a tough summer, you're going to have probably a lot of debris and dead plant tissues and residues on top of the ground. It's important to try to get some of those removed in order to help the seed establish. So it's best to get out here with some kind of a steel rake or a garden rake and try to rake this up so you get down to the bare soil. Once we get down to the bare soil, if we can get our seed down to that area, to have a much better chance of getting established. Now, you can do this manually, as I mentioned, with a rake or so on. You can also do it with some equipment. Things such as a power rake or some type of a core aerator do a great job of removing some of this, exposing some bare soil, and that provides a great environment for that seed to get established. For more information on turfgrass management and how to respond to drought, visit the Purdue Drought page, the Purdue Education Store, and the Purdue Turf homepage.